Todo esto es bioeconomía.
Bioeconomy.
En la Amazonía. Y promoverla nos lleva a un futuro con más
qualidade de vida,
Well-being.
calidad de vida,
oportunidades
económicas
Economic opportunities.
y protección de la biodiversidad.
Biodiversity.
conexão,
Innovation.
Convergencia para la bioeconomía en la Panamazonía. Panamazonía en red. Foro de innovación e inversiones en la bioeconomía. Sean bienvenidos.
Welcome everyone.
sejam bem-vindos.
Bem-vindos e bem-vindas. Começamos agora
Welcome,
mais
everyone. We're going to start another panel of the Pan-Amazonic Network, the Forum of Innovation Investment in Bioeconomy, promoted by the Pan-Amazonic Network for Bioeconomy. We try to get connection, innovation, and convergence between the different players with the objective of promoting a sustainable bioeconomy led by the Amazon. And today we're going to talk about knowledge and education for bioeconomy. I am Maickson Serrão. You can also call me Pavu or Pavulagem. I am a journalist. I am a storyteller and a journalist. I am from the Pinambá population and from the Amazon in Pará, in the conservation unit. I currently live in Manaus, and I'm part of the Secretariat of Education. And I have some work that I do. It's a podcast called Pavulagem, and I get the stories of the enchanted beings of the Amazon forest. And I was raised with these stories in my community. And I noticed that these stories, although they are still oral stories, it is still very strong. But if they were broadcast, they become very fragile. So I register these stories, I catalog these stories, and I expand them with this podcast that can be heard in Spotify. I create content for social media about climate conditions, the issues of indigenous people, and the history and culture, the knowledge in the Amazon, everything that is oral. I've already done a podcast about bioeconomy called Bioeconomy in the Kitchen, where we tried to take to the indigenous population of the Amazon who live by the riverbanks, how we talk about bioeconomy, showing these players that they also do bioeconomy. Because for a very long time, we believed that bioeconomy was only bioeconomy when it was being discussed in events like this one, or in the academic world, in the universities and colleges, or in the offices, closed doors, and we never saw ourselves doing bioeconomy. And this has changed, and it's important for us to discuss bioeconomy, especially for the people to see themselves and notice that they're also doing bioeconomy in daily actions. And today we have with us three great guests who are going to add to our discussion. So we have Alcielle dos Santos, who is from the Iungo Institute. She has a PhD in education, psychology of education from PUC São Paulo. She graduated in law, pedagogy, and business administration. She is the educational director of the Iungo Institute, also part of the board of the Council of Social and Sustainable and Economic Development of the Republic, and also the development of the Ministry of Entrepreneurship. She also works with Solidarity Economy, Education, and is a member of the cooperative of Cipo Educação and Embaixada Santista, the Holsinger Institute. We also have Luis Carlos Carrillo. I hope I pronounced it correctly. He is from Bioingred, Colombia. He is chemical pharmacist, and for more than a decade, he dedicated his career to connect scientific research with entrepreneurial innovation. He works in development of natural ingredients and integrates biotechnology, green chemistry, and biodiversity. He is the co-founder, CEO, and scientific director of Bioingred, a spin-off company from the Antioquia University, where he leads technological developments with the application in cosmetics, food, and the pharmaceutical industries. And we also have Maria Angi, who is from the Escuela Viva de la Amazonía, Cuencas Sagradas Amazónicas from Ecuador and Peru. Maria Angi is a Quechua leader from Napo, Ecuador. She is an educator that is very much in love with what she does and committed to the well-being of her community. She studied educational planning and she did innovating pedagogy, and she has a master's in management and leadership in education. She dedicated 25 years to the public sector, 13 years to the private sector, and promotes intercultural education. And we're going to call Maria for our first question. So Maria, welcome. Maria, we're at an event that is trying to promote bioeconomy as a way of having socioeconomic development for the region. Bioeconomy as a concept today has ancestral practices of culture and protection of the forest. And there's a need for us to connect our knowledge. So how does Escuela Viva de la Amazonía act and protect its traditional knowledge? How do you do this work, and how is this related to bioeconomy? Good morning, Maria. Your microphone is off, Maria. Sorry about that. So, dear colleagues of the forum, it's a pleasure to be here and to greet you and know you here in this area. With regard to Escuela Viva de la Amazonía, it is a bioregional leadership institute. It has indigenous population and supported by Cuencas Sagradas. We work with an Ecuadorian organization, which is the Confederation of the Indigenous People of the Ecuadorian Amazon. And the mission is to empower the indigenous population, strengthen their political representation, and preserve the ancestral knowledge. To be able to preserve the safeguards of the Amazon. This is the most diverse forest in the world. What is the focus here? It combines ancestral knowledge with the practical leadership knowledge and cultivating more autonomous leaders, culturally rooted to defend their territories. And the foci of this escuela include knowledge such as ancestral medicine, bioeconomy of the indigenous populations, governance and territory, technology for conservation of biodiversity. And it's a topic about projects, restoration, forest restoration, and communication in the community. And they're very important foci to be able to work on leadership in the governance of our territories. And these foci not only reinforce the cultural role that exists, but they also complement systems from the sector. So we are working with indigenous leaders to take on leadership roles in the territories and regions, in the nation, and also in other countries. They are ready to lead these territories, ecologically speaking, and to regenerate. We also have territorial governance they're working on, respecting and incorporating this cosmovision of the Equatorian regions in Ecuador and Peru. And this is being done to preserve these territories from the threats in Ecuador as well as Peru. When we talk about the pressure of deforestation and extractive industries and climatic changes. So this definitely ends their own governance and the equity of the indigenous population. And in answer to this crisis, there is an intercultural educational model that connects ancestral knowledge with modern education and giving these young people their sense of identity and teaching them these practices, biocultural resilience, and it works on the gap that is missing in this sector. And this is what we're trying to do with this project, is to increase the impact beyond borders, launching this school EVA in Peru and creating the sharing of knowledge and to be able to develop our projects. And this is practical learning. These young people who are studying, they can learn with, and they were going to have a lot of experience with people from different nationalities and also Ichua population as well as others in the region like Kiku, Shachua, and Jua. And the practical learning classes, they have ancestral knowledge, such as the use of the lunar system, ancestral practices and ancestral methods for the collection of products and the meaning of these references, the role of the yacha. They're also very important in spirituality and health. They also support the ecosystems, the power of cure of medicinal plants, ritual practices, the interpretation of dreams for daily application. So I could also say that there are practical examples in the teaching of these students and the topic, for example, of the Quechua nationality and the Yoko takeover with the Sequoia nationality, and so on with each of the nationalities in these regions. So the students, they live through these experiences, these practices. We also have the cultural part, which is the protection of the area, hunting and fishing. This is being done in practice. The knowledge from the ancestrals, this is what is being passed on. And they are putting more knowledge from the West, and our role is, because our knowledge is forgotten in the schools, so we are making it known. We are teaching this innovatively so that the young people can transmit this knowledge. There's also the importance of the sacred places, the conservation of the environment, and ancestral methods inside the territories, inside the limits, places that do not have technology, they didn't have specialists, professionals, but they took care of the territories. And all of this learning is being transmitted by specialists, by experts, historians that have lived for many years in this organization. Besides this, we're also promoting sustainability through the responsible use of the natural resources. And also, in a responsible way, we're trying to guarantee the preservation for the new generations. We respect the cultural practices and the knowledge from the indigenous population, strengthening products such as food and medicinal products and artisan, so arts and crafts, and what we can actually sell, and we help to make decisions about the development. We also have a combination with modern technologies so that we can improve efficiency and sustainability and the economic practices too. So we are using innovative experience. The students apply this content in professional leadership practices in the communities. And then this is moved over to the pre-professional practices in each of the communities with their leaders. And after that, they are going to other territories. So this allows us to make defenders and educators, defenders for the territory, and the curriculum is based on ancestral knowledge applied to the indigenous culture and regenerative principles. Therefore, the students, they have governance tools, ecologic monitoring, and also ancestral skills. So I can share this about your question. Thank you. Thank you very much, Maria, for bringing all of this knowledge that you carry. And this dialogue is very important. So talking about traditional knowledge, ancestral knowledge. And now I'm going to move on to Alcielle. I have a question for her. So the Lungo Institute that she is part of brought the itinerary in the Amazon that wants to bring the knowledge about the forest and the people who live in the forest to be able to have a dialogue with their curriculum. So I am a professor. I'm part of the educational secretariat. I also participated in these debates and in this discussion for the creation of these Amazonian itineraries. So I think there should be a dialogue about the knowledge, because sometimes, especially before the Lungo Institute's work, we're accustomed to a curriculum that did not talk about our reality. We learned about things from other territories, other regions, and we really didn't know about things that are part of our curriculum. Like, for example, our fish and our fruit and our production. So, and about our stories too. How can we create a dialogue about our stories, our culture, and our knowledge, respecting the knowledge that is oral and everything that is in a dialogue around us? So, Alcielle, we would like you to tell us a little more about the Amazonic itineraries and how you try to impact education in the Amazon and in Brazil with the collection of knowledge that you bring, itinerary knowledge from the Amazon. Thank you for your question, Maickson. It's a pleasure to be here with you again. I remember your voice ever since our first seminar about the information and all of your work as a person in the territory that contributed so that this material would bring us the stories and the voices of all these people. Hello to Maria and Luis, who are also beside me as panel members. And I'm going to answer your question, saying that the way we chose to do this, to do it with you and with all of the people in the Amazon territory. So Itinerários Amazônicos is a program, and I'm going to share my screen because I have some images, and I think that's important in what I'm going to say. And it's also coherent in the narrative, the way that we made the program. So the image, the landscape of the Amazon is very important for us. And it is content beside everything that we talk about. When I talk in plural, I'm talking in the name of our team, which is from the Institute. And it is an initiative developed by the Iungo Institute, and it's about the Amazon, and it's also the Reúna Institute. It's three institutes that got together. They got together the people in the territory, and in the implementation of the program, Iungo made its purpose something that is also in the authors. So trying to transform with these teachers education in Brazil. So the role of teachers like Maickson was very important for us to be able to do this. Why? Because to be able to act with pedagogical material, with teachers, and that has things that have to do with bioeconomy and people's reality. I'm working for professional development, and I need to do this in the public networks. And I need to do this also with universities and third sector institutes, and understanding that with the territorial occupation of the Amazon in Brazil, there's a responsibility, a huge responsibility of actually being able to achieve the Amazon in the plural. So taking care of the diversity, and I think what Maria said told us about how she lives this and how the production is affected, the identity, the culture, and the actions in bioeconomy in the territories. So the first question that really moved us in this creation was, how can we act in this diversity? And our option was that we need to, have these Brazilian schools in the Amazon. So beyond the forest, we want to be able to see the people who live below these trees and how they relate to this territory to be able to maintain the territory, conserve it, and having practices for sustainable development, development practices that are also social, and they are centered in people's experience and the players in the region and the socio-biodiversity of the territory that are part of the environment here. So diversity and specificity, these are talking all the time. Also, when we talk about the economic status. So we can talk about bioeconomy, and some authors, they actually put it in as a question. So what bioeconomy are we talking about? We cannot talk about that without talking about ancestrals and the public policies at this moment. So we are implementing an integral educational policy, and we also have a global commitment to work in a more sustainable manner and a more social manner for this development, which is the 2030 agenda with all these sustainable development objectives. So our response to this, Iungo, Concertação, and Reúna, the authors of this program, the three institutes, together with all of the funding institutes, we tried to find solutions to socioeconomic and environmental problems that are real. So we get to that school, the school that reproduces a little bit of what is happening. So imagine that you are doing this and you create simulation of the content to talk about reality. So we decided not to do that. We started from actual problems the territory had, and we had two fronts of activity. So first of all, education, which is how they work, professional development for the teachers. The teachers need continued learning, and they were in person. There were some remote activities as well. And we understood that we needed to build in a collaborative manner pedagogical material and about the knowledge plus projects of life plus technology. And we had a phase 2 of the program that started last year in 2024. And it was special material for education in the environment, climate, and sustainability. And there's the 6th to the 9th year at school, 6th grade to 9th grade. So it is equivalent to children as from 10 years of age until basic schooling is over. So from 11 to 18 years of age, we developed material that involved 189 educators who were just like Maickson. They were young people in the territory, they were active, and they also live socio-bioeconomy in the Amazon. And for this, today, we already have actions that have reached more than 42,000 educators, with a potential of having reached in this configuration more than 1 million students. So bringing bioeconomy to the program to the syllabus of the program was a decision made based on what Ricardo Abramovay brings. Bioeconomy is the economy of life. Bioeconomy is looking at humankind in the 21st century, reducing inequalities, ending poverty and hunger, but based on the economic growth models that regenerate the natural tissues. So we already have a production chain. We already have community-based tourism in the indigenous and quilombola communities. We already have a series of socioeconomic processes that are collaborative, that are democratic, happening in the Brazilian territories and in the Amazon. So not only in the Brazilian Amazon, but also other projects. And we dived in, and I'm going to be able to talk a little bit more about this later on, right? About what we believe in. And we have 5 principles that we then repeated, which is to bring education as a basis for bioeconomy, integration of local and scientific knowledge, and graduating people in terms of sustainability or teaching them sustainability, and checking the sustainable life modes and life projects. And this word is a challenge for us. It's more feasible inside the Ribeirinha, Quilombola, and indigenous communities because they already live that ever since their origin. So they preserve the forest. These are the people who live in the territory and also working on public policies with educational investment. And this is a continued education for teachers and pedagogical materials as well. And I'm going to stop here so we can talk more about it later, and I can continue sharing in a better way. Thank you, Alcielle. It's very important to have this debate and the results that we have in this project called Itinerários Amazônicos, Amazonic itineraries. And it's something that Maria also does. So we're dealing with education and research and innovation. I think we need to move together with research and innovation. And now we're going to call Luis Carrillo into the conversation to talk about his experience and what is the role of research and development for bioeconomy, and how does research and development, how can they both support the bioeconomic products so that they can compete with traditional products? How do we make this alliance work and assuring that the products of bioeconomy are competitive in this market that we live in? Welcome, Luis. Good morning, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the question. And in this panel, it is very important to share all of this knowledge and all the experience that we have. And in my case, I am a scientist focused on the development of products, and I would like to share my experience and the way we've been doing this when we talk about development of products to maximize value and diminish the impact on the territory. So to give you a better context, I'd like to tell you what we do. Our company is a spin-off. A spin-off is a company that is born from the University of Antioquia. It's one of the main public universities in the country, the main public university of our state of Antioquia. And we founded this company in the second year of my PhD to be able to develop value from agro and biodiversity in Colombia in the generation of ingredients that have a high value to the cosmetics and food industries. So why? Because Colombia, just like Brazil, Peru, and other countries that share the Amazon, we, at least here in Colombia, we import 24 times more natural ingredients than we produce and export. So we have a great disconnection between biodiversity and the consumption and value of what we have, of the products we have. So we have biodiversity, we have the products, we just need to create a chain, a value chain to be able to articulate this and to become an international reference. So thinking about all of this, I like to talk about a triad. that is basic. So going into the scientific knowledge, I'm going to give you better examples of everything. In second place, technological sophistication that is sustainable. So it's basically using technology to transform this, and then taking value and maximizing it. And in third place is have an opening to the markets and the territory, so we can articulate this chain and have a sustainable chain so that everybody is represented. These are the 3 points. So when going deeper into this, it is obvious and very important that in a country like Colombia, where the rate of the use of forest products is low, and one of the greatest problems we have is the deforestation that has happened in our Amazon and also in the Pacific region, where we have the highest rates of deforestation. And part of the solutions was to try and use these products, and even the populations are not aligned. They're not doing it either. So we're talking about fruit, vegetables, and ancestral products that are not taken into consideration in terms of consumption, but they could be used. We could be using it as a company, and with the Antioch University and other universities, we have done research based on the ancestral uses these products, always focusing on research to maximize the value and understanding the uses, the mechanisms, and the functionalities in the sectors that demand new products, for example, in cosmetics and in medicine. So we work with research at the university to be able to do this. In the Amazon, we also have great collaborations and partnerships, or in the Pacific with the Antioch University and other universities in the region. So this is the first component for us, and it's fundamental to know the knowledge, get to know about it, and this has to be placed in the market. The second point, which is very important, is sustainable technological sophistication. So we lose a lot of agricultural products, wild or cultivated, because of logistics, the geography, because of the difficulty in transport for these products. Sometimes we don't get the benefits because we don't know about the technology. That's why we work making the technological development and create transversal strategies that are green, with green technology. And for example, it could be a microorganism, a leaf, a fruit, and other things that can be taken from biodiversity. So using these products and getting value to get to the market. So that's the second point that is important. The third one is one of the most important ones. Of course, things are not alone. Everything is connected. And one thing leads to another. That's what we work, and we work business to business, and we work with companies that get to the consumer, always connecting the people that do the harvesting, the communities, the traditional population, the indigenous population that have the agricultural benefit. So we make the connection between the communities, and we help them in terms of keeping the standards and the maintenance of the equipment. So we're doing post-collection mechanisms that can be used in the field so that they will not only provide materials, but for them to also do the processing, adding value to this product. And that's why we connect all of them with the final industry, so that we can consolidate this in chains that are going to generate value over time. So articulating all of this, which is exactly going deeper into the knowledge, the application of technology, and also open innovation. We are transforming several value chains, especially cocoa, coffee, and other species, always bringing together the different populations and connecting also from this chain. And this is part of what I wanted to tell you today. Thank you. Thank you, Luis. Thank you very much for sharing everything that you're doing. So in the academic world, and now you're doing it as a business, right? And now we're going to invite everybody who is watching to share questions in the chat. So we're going to have room for questions. So send your question to one of our special guests. Take advantage of it because we have great names today, and send your question. And now we're going to have a moment of sharing of experience from our correspondent in bioeconomy that comes from Colombia, Julio Andrés. And he's going to tell us about the Amazon that is an entrepreneur and La Escuela Bosque.
Hoy es un día más en la Amazonía colombiana y desde aquí, desde la ciudad de Florencia, la puerta de oro de la Amazonía colombiana, empezamos la ruta para ir a identificar las mejores semillas, las semillas más viables que pueden existir en los bosques amazónicos aquí en Colombia. Mi nombre es Julio Andrés Rosso y soy el director de Amazonía Emprende, en donde tenemos dos instrumentos para lograr un objetivo muy poderoso, que es contribuir a restaurar cientos de miles de hectáreas degradadas por deforestación en los últimos 80 años aquí en nuestra región. El primer instrumento es un centro de semillas nativas que tiene como objetivo identificar los árboles que producen las mejores semillas, trabajar con esas comunidades, poder rescatar las semillas de esos, desarrollar un modelo de laboratorio para generar viabilidad en las semillas y llevar todo ese conocimiento a viveros, de tal manera que las comunidades puedan producir material vegetal de alta calidad para los procesos de restauración. Y el segundo instrumento es una escuela bosque en donde han participado hasta la fecha más de 1.200 personas de las comunidades, el sector privado, de la academia, del sector público, para aprender la importancia de la bioeconomía, la importancia de la restauración, cómo se hace desde el punto de vista técnico y estratégico. Así que, bueno, bienvenidos aquí a Florencia, Caquetá, a la puerta de oro de la Amazonía colombiana. Bienvenidos a contribuir a restaurar cientos de miles de hectáreas, millones de hectáreas, no solamente en Colombia, sino en todos los países del bioma amazónico. Encuéntrenos en www.amazoniaemprende.com.
Voltamos com mais bloco de
We're
perguntas.
back with another round of questions, and now we're going to go back to talking to Maria. So Maria, how does Escuela Viva de la Amazonía articulates the leadership of the indigenous population with the strengthening of sustainable agricultural practices? How do you get the knowledge of the ancestors, and according to the economic pressure and territorial pressure that is affected by the area you live in? Thank you very much for the question. And it's exactly how we work with this ancestral knowledge. So in our school, we have indigenous populations, different nationalities. As I had already said, we have 10 nationalities inside Peru and other ethnic populations. And we have the great experts in the different strategic areas. They are experts in the ancestral knowledge. About the forest, we have practical classes and theoretical classes, always implementing the native plants, the planting of native plants, and that are almost extinct in the Amazon. And the technical knowledge that is taught, that's the second phase of the education. And there are pre-professional practices with these experts in the communities. So they have Western knowledge, and they also learn about the ancestral knowledge, and this is kept in their territories. And there are indigenous experts also thinking about the methodology of how to do reforestation and also understand the culture of the indigenous chakras, because we have several products and sometimes they had monocultures. So there was the production of these ancestral properties to be able to diversify the variation of products, the diversity, and also this helps with the trading. So this learning has been taken from theory to practice in the territories. And we have worked with the forest restoration, with native plants, and the gastronomy. So there are many plants in our Amazon that maybe because we don't know about it, maybe they're not used as organic food yet. And we have disclosed this so that the children in these communities and also the population in general can have a healthy and rich nutrition. So we can think about sustainability for these communities. Thank you very much, Maria. I was very encouraged to visit and see Escuela Viva. I think you have a lot to share and to make our education learn even more with what you're developing in your territory. So I hope that one day we'll be able to connect and I'll be able to visit. And I work in the Secretariat of Education, and I want to know how we can learn what you're teaching. And now, Alcielle, a question for you. So how does Itinerários Amazônicos expect the educational policies to extrapolate the limits of Amazônia Legal? Do you see your work getting to other countries, especially in Latin America, especially the other Amazon countries? So what do you think of this curriculum beyond Amazônia Legal? Yes, Maickson, I think that this is already happening to some extent. Caroline reminded us in our chat that Itinerários Amazônicos today it received an award, an international award. It was the winner of the Mentes Verde Award from Social Lab with BID. And this initiative with Social Lab was very important to be able to look at educational initiatives that take the school from the 21st century, from the commonplace, not debating these current affairs. And the way that Itinerários is organized, and I'd like to focus on this in the second round, the way that we build our narrative that communicates bioeconomy and all the economies in the Amazon, it's very innovative. Why is it innovative? Because, first of all, part of the council focuses on narratives, the teacher-student relationship. And there's always an invitation for the teacher to make personalizations according to classroom and territory with the interactions and networks that already exist. So there are 6 fronts, and it's important for me to highlight them. So the first one is integration of knowledge and sustainable practices. So you need to have visits to the field. You have to look at what happens in that territory in terms of sustainable practices. So you have to investigate, the students have to investigate, and they are invited in the material to be present in the activities, the educational activities. The second point is valuing the traditional knowledge and socio-biodiversity. So this is present in the identity and the culture of the Amazon, especially in the material, the language curricular activities, so in the Portuguese language and art, but not only there. So throughout all of the material, it is present. So bringing artists that work with photography and making interventions with photographs of the Amazon. This allows us to look at the landscape with the text, right? So it's a text of the work of art and the text that is going to be produced by the student taking pictures when they're walking around in the territory they live in. The third point is stimulating sustainable entrepreneurship. So we already have these chains where the students live, but many times they are not invited to think about them and to meet them while they're at school. So if the school makes this invitation, this pedagogical material brings subsidies to the teachers, the materials from Itinerários Amazônicos. So it is pedagogical material, and also it is also used in continued education. So we produce materials in these exchanges and mediations, and we reach the perspective of a view of social entrepreneurship that happens locally so that that families can get their own revenue. The fourth point is autonomy and protagonism of the youth. The fifth point is to strengthen the learning based on the curriculum, national curriculum in Brazil. So we have a document that puts the minimum common knowledge that is necessary and how Brazil organizes these itineraries that have to do with the reality of the territories the students are in, and also strengthen this national public policy. So it's education for the 21st century that is connected, updated with interdisciplinarity and with active methodologies. And the last point, which is to strengthen the areas of knowledge. So if I study climate in the geography class without talking about the perspective of climatic change, I'm not preparing these young people to understand climate. I disqualify this. So scientific knowledge has to be aligned with the facts of the moment, with the challenges of humankind within this context, and bioeconomy too. So I need to look at the dynamics of the territory, as we have always had in geography classes, but many times in a disconnected way, disconnected from reality, and also looking at bioeconomy and the production chains, the interactions and the improvements that have to be done, the conflicts. So looking at all of this geopolitics within a context is very important. And I think this makes Itinerários Amazônicos become a reference, a national reference. Some states are already moving and trying to expand this to basic education. And some states, for example, like the Amazon, they are already interested in looking at what everybody needs to learn about the Amazon in its diversity and plurality. Thank you very much, Alcielle. And the discussions about bioeconomy, they are much stronger now, more recently. And the importance of this continued education for our teachers is exactly to elevate this discussion, which is very current for them as well. So it's important to have continued education. It's important for it always to happen and for dialogue to run around it, because our education needs to be talking to the 21st century education. And now a question for Louise. How do the biotechnological solutions that you develop at Bioingred, how does this combine with natural ingredient knowledge from the indigenous population and the sharing of technologies that strengthen the territorial sovereignty and the economic situation of the populations? That's an excellent question. Thank you. And we try to, as a spin-off of the Antioch University, we try to connect to the whole chain as a company, as a university, and we want the knowledge to flow perfectly. So we have the development of the processes, and we have the communities This is a group from COIB, and we work with several Amazonic species. And we have a market, an important market for them, for oil. We also have overcosts that are very high, so we need all the permits. But the main gap that we have is exactly the cost of the oil for the international market. It is very high, and we're talking about bioingredients, and you have to have a scientific certification to increase the level of quality and to guarantee the quality. And the second point, as from these technological developments, the main co-products that are developed from, for example, the oil, virgin olive oil, there is a higher cost. And what we try to do is generate this co-product, which is flour, and this is going to generate a second use with the communities and also reducing the cost of the oil. So it will become more competitive. And then we create a model of co-intervention and co-innovation with Bioingred and the communities that already does the processing. And Bioingred is also part of this. And then we trade them together. And we definitely bring the customers, and we get the technical people to maybe do an audit, and maybe this is necessary. So that's why we're always training people to maintain the quality. And that's why many products don't get to the market. So we also have the scientific and technical issues and the applications that are done individually for each process to be able to favor the forest product chains. And these communities in different areas of the Amazon, they will benefit. And we also have the governance model and the production plant for processing. And as I said before, because of price and quality, they are still not able to maximize this business. And there's also, they don't take it to Colombia and the rest of the world. So if we are able to do that, we're going to be able to protect the forest, because we have to prevent there's so many things that can happen, right? And that's why it's important for us to be able to do sustainable use of biodiversity. And this is an example of what we do. And we try and connect scientific knowledge, try to use the knowledge that we are developing in the product value chain for the Amazon, the national and international markets. Thank you very much, Luis. Thank you. And Maria, a last question for you. This is the final round. We talk a lot about resisting, right? So you also talk about the issues of the work that you do in the territory, but besides resisting, we also need to reinvent the way of relating to the forest and promoting regeneration, which is cultural, spiritual, ecological. And how do we do this beyond the territory? So how do we do this relationship that you have in terms of resisting and reinventing these ways of relating to the forest beyond the territory? So how can we actually amplify the work that you're doing in the community? Well, we have two different fronts for our school in the Amazon. School is called EVA. So first of all, we have short cycles. So it is a 1-year course, and it has theory and practice. And then in the long term, we create a knowledge institute and ancestral knowledge with all of the information that is being compiled, and that we create a network for, and then we can share not only in the territories, but we also generate more public policies and bilingual education. So we would like to, beyond this, with the students, and we would like to have professionals graduating. So it's like a technical course that they can do in the system, and it's a bilingual system. So then we're going to be able to expand this even further to other young people. And with this kind of education that we have and that we were able to conquest, we have public policies, we have intercultural bilingual courses, and this is not being used because the authorities are not actually managing this very correctly, not managing the educational system in general. So we don't have an education that is adapted according to the different nationalities and the ethnics that we have. So we also have to work very much on this issue. So we're thinking about getting into this area and generating these public policies so that our education will be based more on reality and needs of this population, always thinking about the territory and thinking about sharing the knowledge and working with the Western knowledge as well as the ancestral knowledge so we can integrate both and be able to use technology as well to insert this in the learning and to be able to support or maybe mitigate the problems that we have in the region. So biodiversity is very important for us. This is our dream, and this is what we're working on. And this is what we're focusing on. We have several young people who have worked in these territories, and we were able to sign a treaty with the government, and we were able to validate this with young people so that we can work in the territories. Another way of doing this is to replace the knowledge, and it's going to be registered in a document so that this can guarantee the provision of these services in these territories and communities inserted in these regions. So then we'll be able to guarantee better education for all of them. With all of these products, in the short term, we're able to get a result for these students. So when they graduate, they will be able to present this based on the needs of all the communities and the organizations. So then we will be able to solve the problems in their territories. So this process is ongoing. We know it's a very long path. We're co-creating several things, always adapting according to the reality that we find in the locations and always trying to improve the education and making it according to the reality we see. Thank you very much, Maria. I really hope that your impact will grow and that you will be able to get to more communities and territories. Alcielle, I think it's going to be a general question. It's a little difficult, but I think you're going to be able to answer it. So you did a lot of research and a lot of dialogue to build itinerários amazônicos. So within the context of multiple crises, so the climatic crisis, the social crisis, cultural crisis, how do you see as itinerários amazônicos, the emergence of a pan-Amazonic ethnicity that not only explores resources, but regenerates ecosystems, promotes social justice, and supports the world with the ancestral knowledge and innovation? Maickson, I think that in our dialogue over here and all the sharing, We've had good examples about how to work with ancestral knowledge, with Maria's experience. We had good examples of how to work with innovations and have social entrepreneurship in a sustainable manner and with responsibility, in what Luiz Carrillo said. So what we want from the Itinerários Amazônicos is the education of the teachers, so that they will have a territorial education that is centered on the current issues. All of them are very complex and systemic issues, the great problems of humanity. They don't work in a way where I can, solve this in geography class and then in the math class. No, I need all these sciences of knowledge. Everything has to be integrated and correlated to solve large problems like climatic crisis and other emergencies that happen in the territory. So the students in the Amazon, they have greater droughts. The students from Rio Grande do Sul, they're already living with the floods. So work on these situations. These are situations of the territory, and this is because of an interaction with factors that have human incidents, and we can provoke these young people to think about their life projects, and they are going to achieve this, and they're going to build things as from their dreams. But it's not just, solitary dreams. They are dreams that talk to the social needs and the communities that they belong to. So it's more than 6,800 pages of pedagogical material that has been produced. And there are so many educational actions. I brought you the numbers here. So we have, synchronous and asynchronous activities. We're continuing to produce with youth and with teachers. And I'm sure that we're contributing together with the 8 education secretariats. And they are co-authors in this initial construction that has already started. And I think in this group of actors and actresses and the BG and Concertação Amazônica, everybody in the territory, we tend to promote something that dialogues with the social education and that does what you're asking about, right? There's this memory and this presence of ancestral knowledge, and it's innovative with regard to the challenges that we need to look at, we need to deal with as humankind. So I talk about a verb, esperançar, which means to hope. And I believe in Paulo Freire and his teachings, and we have to do this inside and outside the school. So we're talking about formal education, basic education, and higher education. Maria is also getting to community education. And I think we need to integrate these dimensions, and that's what's going to promote the change. Thank you very much, Alcielle. And I'm also going to use this verb esperançar, which is to hope, having greater hope and believe in the strength of education and bioeconomy. Louise, the last question for you. With the technological innovations that you develop, and they can be guided not only to compete in the global market, but also to contribute to the regeneration of the Amazonic ecosystems. Right, so this is one of the most complex things that we have nowadays. So take a chain that already creates an impact from the product, and there are many parties involved. The biggest risk that we have is when the chain has an impulse that is going to create a negative impact that is bigger than it should be. And this is where the initial actions, we have to be aware of them. So we talked about a very interesting concept. We work with the communities in a model that we call conscious alliances. So we are conscious, we are aware of the problems, of the needs that these populations have, economic, social, and opportunities. And we also know about the limitations we have. So we also want to be aware of the difficulties for the generation of biotechnology and to be able to use all of these products and to be able to get results in the short term. It's very different with another sector. And amongst all of us, we are going to be successful in this chain, and the environment should be benefited. The society must be benefited, not only economically speaking. And then there's the alliances, the environmental indicators. And for example, we're working on the agro area. We're working with the certifications, the regenerative communities. That's very important because there are agricultural products involved, and the wild type of co-creation that we do in the protected areas to be able to take advantage of the forest and the wood. So this is about regenerative products, and we have to talk about protection and management of this land where you don't have deforestation cycles, and that would be a more negative impact. And we always try to work and create social and environmental and economic impact. And we work with these alliances in a business model where this chain is very important and it should be established to check the impacts. But all parties must be concentrated and should not lose their focus, and they should promote social and environmental actions increasingly that will be maintained in a sustainable manner. Thank you very much, Luis. And we are moving to the conclusion of our meeting, and I would like Alcielle to leave her final remarks and tell us where you can find more information about the work and the research that you develop. And that's it. Just leave your final remarks, please, Alcielle. Well, first of all, I would like to thank you for the opportunity of talking about Itinerários Amazônicos, a very consistent project that is being implemented in Brazil. And if you want to know more about itinerariosamazônicos.org.br, the whole Iungo Institute works with this knowledge, public knowledge. So all of the material of Itinerários Amazônicos is open in general, as well as there's a YouTube channel of the Iungo Institute. And I think that I'm even going to check that. There's a specific channel of Itinerário Amazônicos, and when the other people are talking, I'll just put it in the chat so that everybody can have it. But I think it's also important if you want to know more, if other teachers want to access the materials, and also videos, educational videos. Everything is open. Some are closed to the networks. There are some issues involved, but many of them are open to the public in general. And there's one where I present Itinerários Amazônicos together with Renato, leader of the Institute. So this is my invitation. I would also like to thank you for the learning that I did with Maria Angie, Luis Carlos, and Maickson. I hope that we can meet more and we can hear more about Pavulagem. That is so interesting, and your podcast as well. It's a language, and this is my invitation, being open to new things and learn about new things we don't know about. And it's for all ages. And it's something that is very necessary considering everything that is being done, plus all the difficulties that we have to face. Thank you. Thank you, Alcielle. Thank you for this exchange, for bringing all of this knowledge and your trajectory as a teacher and researcher and the work of the Iungo Institute. Luis Carlos, please, your final remarks. Well, I am just going to use this verb of hope, and we have the hope of being able to materialize things in our countries and all of this impact, and it's favorable. And well, final remarks. I really believe in science and knowledge, but we still need to understand the needs of the others, to be able to promote strategies together that are very important. And we have scientific panels. We're not really working on technology, but we also innovate for articulation. So for the capacity of bringing together university, the state, the community, to be able to concentrate on common objectives and to favor results that we want. So this articulation is extremely important. And of course, we also need to have knowledge and education involved. Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you to my colleagues. I learned a lot with them. And thank you very much, Maickson, as well, for being here as our moderator. Oh, it's a pleasure, Luis. Thank you very much for your contributions. Maria and G, over to you now. Your final remarks, please. Thank you very much. I would like to invite all of you, and we all agree with the work that is being done and the topic that we discussed, which is territorial. And this also contributes towards moving forward. And I would like to keep contact with you as well, with Luis Carlos and with our Escuela Viva de la Amazonía, and for you to meet our director and take a look at the work that we do here. The doors of the EVA school are open to everyone, and we can share Facebook as well. You're going to have all of the information about our school as well. And we have this initiative now for 2 years in the course that we are providing, generating territorial impacts, and we would like to continue growing regionally. And I hope that we can also contribute towards the debate in Brazil. And Alcielle, I would like to invite you as well, so that you can also make this exchange of experience. That would be wonderful. It would be great to count on you, other countries as well. And we're also doing this sort of work as well over here. The work related to this topic of climate change and climatic changes and sustainability and everything that we have in terms of research about it. And Luis also has a very important academic side to his work. And I hope we see each other at another opportunity, and thank you, everyone. Thank you very much, Maria. Thank you, Alcielle. Thank you, Luis Carlos. And we're going to close this moment, and we're sure that bioeconomy and education are inseparable, and together they can regenerate the Amazon and also transform the relationship between the people and the forest. And also look at things that celebrate life, putting ancestral knowledge together, creating sustainable futures. So let's continue in this resistance, innovation, and hope movement. Thank you very much. I hope we can connect. And the people who are with us, they're watching us, I hope you can also discuss bioeconomy and education, because they move together and we'll have a lot to learn from each other. And these exchanges are very important. I hope we can continue to make exchanges and encouraging bioeconomy and showing that bioeconomy is in the different areas, and the indigenous population does bioeconomy, and small farmers also do bioeconomy, and bioeconomy is also in these areas in our daily lives. Thank you very much, everyone who joined us. Thank you to those who are organizing this moment. Behind the cameras, there are many people organizing this. So that's it. Have a great day.
Gracias. Igualmente, que tenga un lindo día.
Thank you very much.